Now, the counterpoint usually brought up by older people falls along the lines of, I bought my first house when I was 26 working as a waiter. Why can't you? But things actually aren't that easy for millennials
and your house is probably $20,000, right? $20,000. $20,000 is how much your house was. And I'm not trying to say that that wasn't hard-earned money that you put forward, because I know it was. But my parents, same case, spent a little bit of money. The value of their house was a lot more. I know places where people are like, I bought my house for $125,000. Now it's worth $7 million. Well, not $7 million, but it feels like it. You know what I'm saying? $125,000 home, they're now selling for $500,000, $679,000. There's houses up on my hill up here that were once probably purchased for $279,000 that go for $1.2 million because of the view and inflation. And nobody can buy a home these days. That is really the case. And if you can, let's just say, the other day I was looking for shits and giggles, right? For shits and giggles, I was looking at homes online because I am obsessed with Zillow. There should be a class because I'm obsessed with it. And you could put the numbers in. How much would you need to make? How much would your down payment be, APR, all of that, all of the information for buying a home, right? Well, the homes in my price range from $700,000 to $900,000, which where I live, these homes, they are not worth no $700,000 to $900,000. If you put them in anywhere else, if I took that amount of money and went south or went to anywhere else, I would be able to build large, baby, large. You're paying for a tin can at some points here for that kind of money. I mean, not exactly, but it feels like that. Like, what are we paying for? What are we paying for? But in order to get a home of that kind of status, you would at least need $150,000, $170,000 put down. Okay, well, let me just grab that money. Whereas I do have big aspirations of being able to do that. I am not in that bracket yet. But I can successfully pay my bills every month, so God is good. But when it comes to looking at the price of homes, I'm just reminded to myself by whoa, we are not in the same realm that our parents were when they were buying homes. So for them to say, well, in my day, yeah, Pops, we know in your days, it was pennies on the dollar, okay? Pennies.
Gen Z trying to work their way up to homeownership in today's economy. In 1984, the median annual household income in the U.S. was just over $22,400, while the median home sale price...
Oh my gosh, $22,400. Imagine that's what people are making right now, $22,400, and they have more kids, and the price of everything is so high. It's like, what are you going to do? Everybody in the house needs to be making that kind of money these days to live. Every single person.
Was $78,200. So an average home was around 3.5 times a household income. By 2022, the median household income had gone up to just under $74,600 per year, while the median home sale price was now $433,100. In other words, 5.8 times the average annual household income. According to the income rules many realtors go by, that means as of 2022, an American household needs to make above $100,000 to buy an average priced home in their city. And in some of the nation's biggest cities, they'll need to make 3 to 4 times that. That's partly due to housing shortages. As of 2022, the U.S. is more than 3 million homes short of the demand from would-be home buyers, which is why browsing Zillow has become the millennial version of reading fantasy novels.
I was just saying.
The shortage is caused by a combination of factors. There's the labor shortages needed to build them, NIMBY policies blocking new construction
not in my backyard,
neighborhoods, and the high cost of materials thanks to global...
This not in my backyard is a real thing, I am telling you. People are like, I have been in this neighborhood for 13 years. That doesn't seem like a lot. I have been in this neighborhood for 33 years, and I am very happy with our 17 people in this block. We do not want to open it up to have an apartment building put in this area. We do not want to have any more people living in our subdivision than we have right now. This is real stuff. People who've lived at locations for so long feel like they own that space. And they are the first ones who are at the assembly meetings talking to the assembly chair saying, please, we come down to every single meeting. We have all of our notes stacked in a book with staples as to reasons why we do not want to increase the city limits where we're at. We want no more occupants. No more. Okay? There is nothing more riled up than a person who does not want their zone to change. They will be at every single meeting. They will have the large book with the tape-ins so they can cite their sources as to why you do not need to increase where they are at. Okay? So we got places like that where nobody wants to increase anybody living in their area because they're good. And then you have the other side of vacation rental, which you and I could sit here and talk for 2 hours until I am blue in the face about vacation rentals. Because your girl has been in this industry for a long time. I've been cleaning places, vacation rentals, since they were vacation rentals, VRBOs, okay? 14, 15 years ago. Now there's Airbnb, the fancy turn. I'm from back in the day. Way back in the day. I've seen firsthand what VRBOs do to local areas in their home, in their location. You know, one home that used to have access to give a family of 5 is now a vacation rental. And the part that kills me is everybody is just turning everything into a vacation rental. Everything. Not every single space is a vacation rental space. You know what I'm saying? Just because you put lipstick on a pig doesn't change anything. It is still a pig. And I'm not knocking your location, but when people go on a vacation, they want to feel like they're on a vacation. They don't want to feel like they're at their auntie's house with the cat walking around. They do not want to feel that. They do not want the constant supervision. They don't want that either. So I have seen all of this. I've seen vacation rentals take over neighborhoods, which that means more people do not have access to rent to those places. And it's not just Airbnbs that's a fault too. A lot of landlords are really strict about their occupant levels. And you'll think, okay, well, there should be able to be, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. I should be able to fit 5 people in there. I have called a location where there was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and they told me that only 3 people were allowed to be there. I'm like, wait, what? Where is people supposed to live? When I was young, growing up in the 80s, people had large families. So there was huge houses. People had 8, 10 kids. My dad came from 14 kids. My husband's mother came from like 13. They were making babies back then. Okay. So they needed larger places. But now anymore these days, even if you wanted to have a larger family, you cannot find a place to live. You cannot find a place to rent. You cannot find a place to buy, you know. And don't forget about those people at the assembly boards, because you know who I'm talking about with the pens, right? With the pens, they're all in it.
Global supply chain shocks and inflation. Rising interest rates haven't helped matters. After over 2 decades of relatively low interest rates on home mortgages, the rates got jacked up to combat the inflation caused by pandemic relief efforts. This led to current 30-year fixed-rate mortgage interest rates hovering around 6.76%, almost double what it was in 2016. That means that not only do people need much more money available to buy a house, as they'll be paying higher interest rates on mortgages, but empty nester boomers and Gen X, who would generally be downsizing at this point, are less likely to go buy a new expensive property for a much higher interest rate. So they continue to live in their paid-off homes, keeping it off the market and worsening the housing shortage.
This is true. I've seen it time and time again. I will get to a location and the person was just like, you know, we're living here. We do not want to relocate. This is a person who's been in their home for 30, 40 years. They don't want to relocate. They have their location, they're settled, but they don't use the rooms anymore. They're in a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom home, and they only use the space that they're in. So these homes sit out there that could be used by big families, but there's no access to them. And you can't tell a person, move out of your house, move into a condo. They have the right to live where that is their home. But what served you when you were younger with your family is not going to serve you when you're older. So it's much different. And then you get stuck in a position to where unless you know, want to go do the condo living, it might not turn out in your favor, or the house that you now think you're going to get so much money on, nobody can afford to come buy that house. Okay. So that house that you bought for $175,000 that you now want to sell for $632,000 because all the houses on your market has brought the value up and that's what you want to do it now. But nobody has a job to do that because everybody's getting laid off from those jobs. So we're in a bit of a predicament, huh? Whereas the top wants to have all of the money. We're in a bit of a pickle is what we're in this situation. But I kid you not, I have been into more houses where people are like, I don't use 4 of those bedrooms. I'm like, well, what are the bedrooms for? Storage. Dog rooms, which I do not mind fur babies. I love fur babies. People got whole rooms for their dogs, whole pets, whole setups, everything, you name it.
Ability to buy a house and invest in property that's going to appreciate makes a huge impact on how much wealth you can build in your life and how much wealth your children and grandchildren can build. Home ownership itself helps people build wealth by giving them the ability to take out loans against their property that they can use to invest or build up something of their own. A report by the National Association of Realtors found out that by 2023, middle-income homeowners had accumulated $122,100 in wealth due to an average of 68% appreciation in their property value since 2012. NAR chief economist Lawrence Yoon says a monthly mortgage payment is often considered a forced savings account that helps homeowners build a net worth about 40 times higher than that of a renter. In the meantime, the potential of renters to build a path toward homeownership is becoming more and more bleak. In 2022, renters in the U.S. spent an average of 30% of their income on rent, a record high that's only continued to rise. According to Bremer Bank, that's led to a 70% increase in the wealth gap between owners and renters in the last 3 decades. Now, people born rich have an obvious advantage when it comes to becoming rich themselves: money. But being born into a wealthy family actually gives you a lot more advantages than that, starting with financial literacy. Many rich kids are having meetings with their parents' financial advisors, given small portfolios to manage, and get interest and dividends from a young age. They're told exactly what financial instruments and loopholes can help them accumulate wealth before they've even graduated high school, which is perhaps why MoneyZine found that 58% of Americans who earn over $100,000 are financially literate. On the other hand, financial literacy among the general population is at an all-time low. And without a team of business managers, advisors, and lawyers to tell most people what to do and how to plan out their financial future, who can blame them? That's why only 28% of Americans with an income of less than $25,000 are financially literate. After all, it's not like managing your finances is taught in most high schools.
No.
Most people graduating college can't even fully explain how mortgages or IRAs work. Gen Z has the lowest overall financial literacy rate, with only 38% knowing anything about investments. Not knowing what you're doing is a big problem. A survey by the World Economic Forum found that 40% of people who choose not to invest, implying those who have some money to do so, don't invest because they don't know how. 70% of people surveyed said they'd be more likely to invest with better financial education. Well-off parents are using that financial literacy to set up their kids for life in another way as well, by building up their credit score. One 2019 poll by creditcards.com found that 8% of 1,500 American parents surveyed had their children added onto their credit cards as authorized users. This was to game the system and to help them build up their credit. Many of the kids didn't even know that they were on their parents' cards, but that good score was building up for them regardless. Those same parents will also be able to co-sign loans with their kids while their peers are still trying to raise their score above a 600. This is called piggybacking, meaning when people get a good credit score,
I'm thinking of these parents and how they are doing the honorable thing and they are preparing their children for a great future, right? They're having them co-sign on or be on the credit card so that they can get credit for points. And then I think about people that I know, won't name any names, but a family member who she used her child's name to be able to get access to bills, to get access to services that she would put her child's name in. So it's like, that was messed up. You shouldn't have done that. You're supposed to be building your child's name up, not destroying their name. It really does come down to financial literacy and what you teach your child and what you pour into your child and let them know. And even if you do not have all of the access to do it, where some people, that doesn't mean that you don't have access to it in a different way. You just need to figure out what that way is. You need to be able to do your research, especially having my own business. I just submerge myself in audiobooks. I listen to taxes. I listen to small business stuff, entrepreneurs. I watch people. I join the classes. I do all of it because I need to really be able to submerge myself in. And then I need to know how to pass it down to my kids and having my kids work for me. There's so many different things that you have to do in research, but then you don't realize how much is really out there for you that you can do, right? I think that being an entrepreneur, people look at it as it's scary because there's so much unknown, but that's where I thrive. I thrive in the unknown. I'm like, we can make a wake. We can make a way, okay? So I just need to do the research. I need to figure out this stuff, and it's out there for you to find out this information. So even though you might not have been born into the family that's going to tell you all this stuff, you still have access to money. You still have access to information, and you can make it look like for you what it looks like for you. And that's what I'm doing for my family. We're doing what we're doing best to set up our kids for the future. And that's really all that matters. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. Don't look at another person's situation, because that's not your situation, okay? Another person's blessing is not your blessing. Your blessing is your blessing. So you have to just focus on what you're doing. Make sure that you're doing the research, because information is power, knowledge is power. Knowing what questions to ask and when to be quiet is monumental. So as we're watching this video and we're thinking, how can I, better off myself, get information, figure out what you need. Do you work 9 to 5? Are you in your own small business? What do you do? And how do you need to access new information to help build you up? Sometimes knowing the tricks of the trade and just knowing secrets, knowing the loopholes is what advances you to the next level. So you go to work, figure out your money, figure out what's going towards retirement, figure out if your company even offers that, figure out if you do have a way that you can invest. If you're interested in investment and in being investing, don't be scared of it. Type that word in Google and go down the rabbit hole. Find out information, listen to podcasts, listen to people who are talking about that information, because you need to get it all in, because you want to teach your kids this information. And that's how we pass on financial literacy. It's not just about the information. It's how we are with the information, what we do with the information, how we apply the information. Okay. That's the biggest thing. Because when I wasn't applying everything that I was learning, I was a mess. I was a mess. And just being able to learn new tricks of the trade, figure out stuff, has put me in a much better situation financially. So yeah, this is great. Shout out to, this is an infographic. This is Middle Class Crushed as Billionaires Take Everything. I might come around and do a third peep of it, or if you just want to go look at the rest, I strongly suggest it, because this is some really good information that you need to have. Peace out.